is doing what Luffy would do. You should tell him that.
All right. So, yeah. Apparently, my Hasan Piker video didn't exactly go too well, or at least not as well as what I planned. Initially, like, it was just something I threw together because I had a bunch of different video ideas and I went on Wheel Decide, and that happened to be what Hasan wound up being the topic that the wheel chose. It was an unplanned video that I just wound up throwing together like willy nilly, just talked about all my talking points as to why I dislike the gentleman. Now then, I wound up getting a lot of people saying that it was all misinformation, it was all this, it was all that. However, I did wind up getting one comment in particular that was constructive criticism. And quite frankly, like, because although, like, they were still on Hasan's side during the whole thing, I figured I'd take their advice and go along with the constructive criticism. And I'm just going to be pointing out, like, breaking down into multiple parts why I dislike Hasan Piker instead of just doing blanket statements. Now then, this video is going to be the first of, I'd imagine to be like a 4 to 5 part series. This one is specifically going to be him supporting terrorists. I'm going to show my evidence of him supporting terrorists. I'm going to point out the flaws in everything that he says. And in fact, I am going to do 10 exhibits, 10 instances of him supporting terrorists, and me saying why I dislike the fact that he does this. So, without further ado, Exhibit A.
Stupid question. Okay, you can preface it with that. Does he know what One Piece is?
One Piece, like, is that an organization?
No, One Piece is an anime.
اوكي. اول شيء بقول لك انه ممكن هذا السؤال يكون شوي اهبل، بس بسالك تعرف شو هو ون بيس؟ عمرك سمعت بون بيس؟
اكيد يعني منذ الطفوله وانا اشاهد ون بيس لوفي.
Is it Luffy?
Yeah, he said he's been watching it since he was a kid.
No way!
Yeah.
That's sick. Yes, yes, that's fire. That's so fire. Oh my god, dude. We think the Houthis Ansar Allah is doing what Luffy would do. You should tell him that.
So yeah, that was him talking to a Houthi terrorist, which, mind you, the Houthis were labeled by over 120 countries, by the United Nations, the UAE, like a bunch of countries, and even during the Biden administration, they were labeled as terrorists because what they do is they target trade vessels, they target supply ships, they even target civilian ships because of the fact that by raiding and pillaging from these, like, people and, like, taking prisoners, taking contraband, like, doing all the piracy shit, like, they are using it to fund their terror program. Like, yesterday they wound up sending a missile trying to hit the Tel Aviv airport, and apparently it's missing according to, like, some of the articles I've read. But yeah, the Houthis are just overall massive scumbags. Like, 120 countries and international organizations have condemned the Houthi attacks. That is literally the first well, that's not even the entirety of the first sentence when you just Google how many countries have labeled them terrorists, which were described as an act of transnational terrorism, according to the UAE, specifically the UN Security Council and the Biden administration, along with other countries, have expressed condemnation. States of the UAE, while the exact number may vary depending on the sources, the international condemnation is widespread. Yep, that is literally like what happens when you Google it. And here he is. He gets one of those scumbags onto his podcast. And he fucking glazes him. Says that he's like Luffy. I'd show the whole interview, but quite frankly, I'm liking to keep it to snippets, to individual moments, things he's done, things he's said, and supply the evidence as it goes along. That way it's individual exhibits instead of me being like, oh, I'm going to backtrack to this. Anywho, that was Exhibit A. And, comparing a pirate to a pirate, even though one pirate is part of a terror organization and the other is like a goofy guy that will punch people out because of the fact that some random person told him, like, hey, this guy gave me a parking ticket. Here's a half-eaten McRib. Luffy would crash out for that McRib. He would not want harm to come to innocent civilians. And to go to these young men, like whether they be like young teenagers, college age, like just young men in general, and being like, hey, this guy is like this anime character that you like. He is exactly like them. Therefore, he is good. Therefore, he is justified. Therefore, like, don't question me. That is the kind of message that he's spreading by putting him on his stream and fucking glazing him. Anywho, on to Exhibit B.
Here comes the aeroplane.
This is so insane. America deserved 9/11, dude. Fuck it. I'm saying it.
We're there to partner with them. We're not there doing our own thing. We're there partnering and training
In a video
and
game.
equipping and enhancing their capabilities. So that's part of what we're doing. And the other part is just knowledge. We want to know what's happening.
Like, we fucking totally brought it on ourselves, dude. Holy shit. We did. We fucking did. In a video game.
Yeah, there is no sugarcoating that, Hasan Glazers. He's saying that America deserved the 9/11 terror attacks. Now then, when the 9/11 terror attacks happened, I believe if my math is correctly, actually, I was 4 when the 9/11 terror attacks happened. And Hasan, like, he is 6 years older than me. Like, well, depending on what month he's born, he might just be 5 years older than me. My birthday is coming up, and if he happened to, like, it just depends, like, on a couple month difference or, like, couple days. I don't know when this fucking guy's born. The point is that he's old enough that he remembers 9/11. He was, like, either, like, 9 or 10 when it happened. I remember vividly when Michael Jackson died, and all the news coverage about it, it was all people would talk about. And, like, even if you're too young to remember 9/11, you've seen those horrific videos of people jumping out of the Twin Towers because they didn't want to die of asphyxiation or burning to death. And, like, it's like, is that paper? And then you just hear the smack, and it's like, that was a fucking human. And then another, and another, and another. 2,977 people died. And he's saying that America deserved that. In a single attack on a single day. Like, shoot, I'm gonna look this up. Like, alright then. How many people died in Hiroshima and Nagasaki? Okay then. It is still just a fraction of what happened when the atomic bombs were dropped. And let's see then. Like, approximately 140,000 people died in Hiroshima, and then another 74,000 in Nagasaki. And that was during wartime. We were not at war with Iraq at the time. And because of a bunch of radicalized individuals in the Middle East, managed to get aboard a plane and hijack it, and they just flew that into civilian towers, which were office buildings, mind you. And like, it's mind-blowing that it's just like, okay then, like, they were fucking office buildings. Sure, there were people like handling trade, but I'm sure there were people that were like renting out spaces. It's like, okay then, I'm like your tax lady or whatever, or your lawyer, and I just happen to have an office inside of this building. And shoot, I think that there was like particularly one Jewish guy who didn't happen to be there that day because of the fact that it was a Jewish holiday, saying that like Jews can't work during it. And I believe it was Candace Owens or somebody like that was basically trying to blame the Jews for 9/11 because this guy was taking a holiday off. Now then, I'm not Jewish, so I can't particularly like say for certain, and like, this is just something I remember. It came to mind. It's not something where it's like, hey, I'm going to pause the recording, look up the individual who said that, put that clip in there, because like, I'm focusing on Hasan right now and the fact that he is saying that it is justified. Mind you, he's adding in a video game, because this was after the whole scandal where he was saying that if Americans cared about their healthcare system, they'd kill Rick Scott. So, you know, that's why he added the in a video game. That way he wouldn't potentially get banned again, because it's like, oh yes, I can incite violence all I want. I could say that we deserved violence. But now, because of the fact that he can't just make death threats or incite people to violence, his mindset was, okay, I'm just going to say, like, in a video game, in Minecraft, in Elden Ring. Like, that is such cowardice. That not only are you saying that the deaths of thousands of innocent individuals, like nearly 3,000 people, in a attack that was against civilians and then also against government workers in the Pentagon, but like, how do you defend that? Like, there was 1,402 victims in the North Tower, 614 in the South Tower, and 184 in the Pentagon, and 40 that were inside of that plane that crashed into that field on Flight 93. Now then, it was so bad on the scene that dogs that were there for like search and rescue, people went into the rubble, covered themselves up with it, just because the dogs were so depressed and they gave up on finding even a single survivor. Now then, you could be a conspiracy theorist. You could think that it was staged, that it was like somebody in the United States government that did this. You could say that it was like whoever, whatever, wherever. Okay, then. What Al-Qaeda did was unforgivable. And a lot of the stuff that we did inside the Middle East, like, I'm not justifying any of that. I got family that served over there in that time, and, like, they were fucked up by the shit that was done to them by these terrorists. Like, for a very long time. If they ever want to talk about it and come on to my channel and talk about it, I'll, like, invite them. Like, but I am not going to sit here and let somebody say that we deserved 9/11. That's, like, you can point to any, like, hospital bombing where the Houthi terrorists tried firing a missile and then it landed on their own hospital that they were hiding behind a bunch of women and children in, claiming that it was a Israeli strike, even though the missile never left the Israel border or, like, was fired towards it. Nah, just like, you know, you fucked over your own people and then you blame the Jews. Like, this isn't one of those things that Hasan would defend. This is international terrorism that completely reshaped the world because of how violent it was, and he said that America deserved it. Alright, on to Exhibit C.
My name Sniper King!
Israel killed 2 journalists yesterday. One of them is someone who I frequently talk to get updates. He was a contributor to Al Jazeera. I've talked about him before. His name is Hasan. He was 23 years old. Israel had put him on a leaflet claiming that he was a terrorist alongside 5 other journalists a couple months prior, which was a death sentence. And I reached out to him at the time when I saw that. And, you know, he did not seem discouraged. He was steadfast. And till the very last breath, he was trying to put the word out about what was happening to his people.
Yeah, his friend died. His friend who also happened to be a sniper for Hamas. That's the thing that a lot of people like to miss out on. It's like, oh, no, he wasn't, except, yeah, he literally was. He was listed in, like, Hamas listed him themselves. That plus if you look at his Instagram and all this other stuff, all of his social medias, he was posting things in areas before terrorist attacks would happen. Now then, maybe it's just a massive coincidence. Maybe there's just somebody who happens to have his exact same name, who happens to go to these exact same places, who is listed as a sniper, who is apparently a journalist, who, mind you, doesn't have any articles or anything listed to his name, alright? He has social media stuff where he would pose inside of like a journalist vest while simultaneously showing up to these areas where these attacks were happening, posing with active duty terrorists. Like these people were like all casual buddy with him. Like, it's just like the same way that, let's say you had a coworker named Dave and he happened to walk by and it's just like, yeah, Dave, you want to take a selfie? Sure thing. And like, the guy straight up was just a sniper. Like, trying to say, oh, he was a journalist. What papers did he write for? What, like, articles did he write? Did he have a show? Did he have this? Did he have that? Nope, he had none of those. However, he is listed by Hamas as a sniper inside of their ranks. He gets killed for being a sniper. Like, I don't know what to tell you. Like, maybe next time choose better friends. Like, I don't know. But, like, being on screen crying, like, because, like, I get it. Your friend died. I've had friends that have died too. In fact, I've actually found 2 of them dead myself. It's never a good thing to happen. But, you know, you're spreading a false narrative that he was a journalist when he in fact wasn't, just so that you can propagate through your sources of misinformation and use it to propagate a message that Israelis are just killing people indiscriminately. Who cares if they're a sniper? Who cares if they are transporting weapons and using the cover of an aid vehicle that they commandeered? Like, who cares if the people that were going to originally give medical aid are dead on the roads and you guys caught that all on drones? You guys saw that happen. Like I said, he was a fucking sniper. What more is there to say? He was a sniper who killed Israelis, who was there on October 7th and was posting pictures to his Instagram before the attacks happened. Like, that's all I gotta say on that. Like, for fuck's sakes. Exhibit D. Yeah, before I show this next exhibit, I tried finding just an isolated clip of this, or just like the actual original video, but all I could find was a video of people reacting to it, so yeah, sorry about that.
Oh, you want to see a Houthi musical?
You want to see a Houthi musical?
I'm gonna grab my food.
Look at Nick's face.
Yeah, I wanted to find the original clip, but in the original clip, he was showing this guy who was a guest on his show who didn't know that Hasan was like this. The guy went there not expecting anything, and like Hasan was just like, okay then, Houthi music video, whatever. Guy, like he puts it on, and the guy's just sitting there like, okay then, let's hear this. Like, clearly the guy likes music. I have no idea who he is, but like, you know, he seems like a music enjoyer. Like, I can appreciate that. Like, the guy just like starts listening to it, and he's reading the lyrics, and he's just like, yeah. Meanwhile, Hasan's just like, yeah, man, these people are great. Hold on, let me just do something. Because according to him, leaving an empty chair and playing propaganda is entertainment. And it's something that he apparently, and like he does this all the fucking time too. He will leave and go off and do something. Hell, during Ramadan, he was going off, grabbing food, and eating it. Like, I'm not even Muslim, alright? And he was going off during Ramadan, playing this propaganda about wanting to start a third world war, about wanting to kill Jews, letting his chat wind up, like, screaming and ranting, like, talking like, oh man, this song is great. It's the total bop. I love the lyrics. Because, like, this guy exists within an echo chamber, and when it comes down to echo chambers, the louder you yell into it, the more of your own voice you're going to hear coming back to you. And because this guy is praising these people who want to start a third world war and want to cause as much violence as possible, that's what his audience of young men with influenceable minds wind up screaming back at him. And he does this all the fucking time. And even the guest inside of this instance was incredibly uncomfortable. Hasan came back and he looked at me and was just like, what the fuck was that? That is the same reaction I had to that video I saw of a guy who had a jar break inside of his own ass. Like, what the fuck was that? Why would you show me that? And that is the reaction that this guy had to this uninvited exposure to terrorist propaganda. And that's what it is, terrorist propaganda. Like, I could, like, go even deeper in this. I could show more instances of him showing terrorist propaganda. I could do that. It wouldn't be hard. I'm pretty sure that if I was recording this when he was streaming, that I'd be able to just go onto his stream, get a clip of him saying and showing terrorist propaganda, and like it would just not even take that long. Anywho, on to the next exhibit.
Quagmire, I am so sorry.
Don't worry about it.
We can go after them.
Don't worry about it. They're tagged. They're tagged. Just.
The report from her office arose from an official visit to Israel at the invitation of the government, which included a visit to the occupied West Bank between 29th January and 14th of February. In the context of the coordinated attack by Hamas and others of 7th of October, UN mission team found that there are reasonable grounds to believe that conflict-related sexual violence occurred in multiple locations, including rape and gang rape, in at least 3 locations in southern Israel. These were some of the most extreme claims made on October 7, or related to October 7, and there hasn't been any additional investigation conducted, and the UN had brought forward their interest in conducting an independent investigation, and yet, but also this is the Al Jazeera Arabic.
Alright, so he was literally just going to go to the terrorist propaganda site and news coverage of this. But, yeah, Hasan denies the fact that any rape happened on October 7th. This is a stance that he has stated multiple times. It's like, oh yes, we have initial, forensic reports that women were raped. And it's like, oh, there wasn't a follow-up one? There wasn't, any of this, any of that? And that's always the excuse that he makes. It's like, there wasn't a follow-up thing done. It's just like, oh, I'm sorry, when you find a woman naked from the waist down, bleeding with semen leaking out of her, with fucking a bullet hole between her eyes, and there are multiple of them as young as like little itty bitty girls to like, it didn't matter as long as they were fucking female. Like, and these fucking depraved animals raped and murdered them and captured several people. They were fucking throwing grenades into places that were like confined to kill as many people as possible. But like, I am not going to show those fucking images. They are horrific images. And like, I've also seen images that Hamas has posted of like some of the women that they have victimized. And heck, there was a documentary where this Jewish woman was describing her sexual assault. I will not play that because I do not believe in like specifically monetizing anything based off of sexual violence towards anyone. I will summarize her story, but like I won't show her face because I do believe that although she was in a documentary, I don't think that I'd feel comfortable as a person if this video gets monetized to be like having that as part of my content, okay then, because that would feel exploitative of her as an individual, where she described how the people in Hamas that kept her prisoner, like they would rape other women. She witnessed it happen all the time. And then there was a guy that pulled a gun on her and she was naked, and he basically dragged her into another room threatening to kill her unless he performed sexual acts on her. Which is just all kinds of wrong. And this guy on multiple occasions denied that any rapes happened on October 7th and that any rapes have been done by Hamas. Like, I'm going to go on to the next exhibit before I wind up cursing like a sailor and just wind up like, it is an infuriating thing to even think about that somebody would deny that this happened just because these people, like, you befriend their snipers, you go around reading their news, you want to feel like that you're a good guy, that you are a just person, but like, the guy can't even defend the fact that he is blatantly a rape denier. On to Exhibit F.
It's kind of the same principle that I maintained throughout the past 15, 16 months, where people would come in here and be like, no, they're definitely killing the hostages. And I kept repeating over and over again, there is no logical reason for Hamas to just execute a hostage without showing it on camera.
Except that is something that they did. In fact, they did it so often that they actually wound up mixing up the corpses of people that they were sending back. Okay, and it's a terrible story. I remember hearing about it, and he wound up denying it too. In fact, he believed the terrorists that he always believes when they said that they didn't kill, like, 2 innocent little children. Despite what witness testimony said, despite what... And don't mind my cat, she's just coming up to say hello. Anywho, yeah, like, they killed so many people that they wound up mixing up the bodies when they were sending bodies back. And they were denying, like, oh, these 2 children, their corpses, like, yeah, no, it was an Israeli bomb that wound up killing them inside of our base of operations. Which it wasn't. What the autopsies showed, once they wound up getting the corpses back home to where they belonged, with the woman that wasn't their mother, they did an autopsy on them, and it's like, hold on, all this damage done to their skulls, their fucking heads, was done post-mortem, not as it happened. Like, it wasn't like, oh, they suffocated and then, like, there was some debris that, like, no, these 2 innocent babies were fucking strangled to death and then had their heads bashed in. Like, who the fuck goes around and it's just like, you know, I believe the terrorists that hold people at gunpoint whenever we release them to smile and wave, to fucking kiss their cheeks. Like, who would believe that? And it's the terrorists filming that. And then, like, it's like, oh yes, this press angle. And then, like, it'll be, like, another shot from this angle. Meanwhile, they're just like, it's like, oh yes, kiss the cheek, kiss the cheek, smile and wave. Shoot. It was horrible. The video of those innocent babies being returned, like, with all of these terrorists gathered around it dancing. They were throwing a fucking party. And they had children that were Palestinian that they are raising with this mentality, who they are also kidnapping off the streets. So they are corrupting the youth, kind of like Hasan is, to support their cause. Like, there isn't anything defensible towards that. I feel like everything I just said is completely undermined by the fact that my cat is super affectionate and lovey right now. Alright. Guess I'll go to part G.
Debate between a giant douche and a turd sandwich.
Listen to what I'm saying, and you will understand, perhaps, what I'm trying to imply here.
That's very patronizing.
Utilizing the hostages. Yeah, I am being patronizing. I don't know who the fuck you are, and you're over here chirping all the way from fucking London about Palestine and doing a both sides are fucking fine type bullshit. Where you're talking about how you want to fucking free Palestine, but also simultaneously, you know, both sides got a lot going on. Shut the fuck up. You don't know anything.
Yeah, so the guy is very bluntly against a dual state, like, anything. A dual state solution where, you know, Hamas releases the hostages, where they end the war, because that's all that Israel wants, that's all that the United States wants. We want our people to be let go, and quite frankly, if you've watched The Prince of Egypt, they're like the fucking pharaoh, just like, I will never let your people go. Yeah, that's fucking Hamas, and this guy eats that shit up. He is against a dual state solution. He is against a solution where, like, Palestine and Israel both can exist, alright? And what they mean by that is, like, for, like, from the river to the sea, which is something he said before, is from the Jordan River to the Mediterranean Sea. They want that to be reclaimed for Palestine. And that is very problematic, because that would require the complete erasure of Israel. And that's not what Hasan... Actually, that is exactly what Hasan wants. But that isn't what anybody else in the world wants, okay then? And he labels anyone who says that, like, the people that lived there, that were born there, even the indigenous Jews, not the ones that were, like, shipped over from Europe after World War II. Like, he's saying that, like, even the indigenous Jews, like, that whole country needs to be wiped out, and he wants for a fucking racial genocide. Alright? And, like, that is what the people in Hamas want. They want the erasure of the Jewish people in order to, like, reform a dead country. Now then, where does that sound familiar? It's almost like in World War II, there was a bald guy that was hung at a gas station I believe, in Italy, who wanted to use military power to essentially crush every country that is existing in order to reform a dead nation. That almost sounds exactly like what Mussolini was doing, except instead of it being like a dictator, it's a bunch of people using children and women as human shields, alright? They are building their bases inside of schools, inside of hospitals, so that nobody is able to attack them without committing any sort of war crimes. And like I mentioned before, there have been instances which Hasan has also pointed out, like, oh, Israelis bombed this hospital, and then it's like 2 seconds later, after their report, the people in Israel find out about it, and they're just like, no, that wasn't us. Let us invest. Oh, wait. Yep, evidence I'm seeing. I'm poorly made. Like, this is a surface to air thing. No guidance systems. Our systems have guidance to them. Shoot, we weren't even aware of this Houthi base. Sucks for all these dead women and children, but, you know, less of you fuckers. Let's see if we can, like, shift through this rubble to see if we could find any of our people that we want back. Like, and he is against a dual state solution. He is entirely for the destruction of Israel and for the death of thousands just so that a dead nation can come back and exist. You know what? I could continue, which is exactly what I'm going to do in this next part.
What are you?
An idiot sandwich.
Idiot sandwich what?
The youngest to have been abducted on October the 7th. On stage, an offensive propaganda message blaming Prime...
Offensive propaganda message?
I found the clip of him laughing at the dead babies. Anywho, anytime Hasan winds up hearing any other country's coverage of the Middle East, and it isn't specifically kissing the ass of Hamas or Hezbollah or the Houthis, he laughs at them, calls them ill-informed, he'll do this, that, and the third. Basically, if you don't follow what he has decided is, like, what is just in the world, then you're an idiot and should be laughed at. Heck, I'm pretty sure he could find somebody from fucking Harvard, neurosurgeon, wound up, like, with, like, several acclaims and stuff to that, and then the guy says, yeah, I think Israel should be allowed to exist. He'd call him brainwashed and an idiot, though, quite frankly, he is the brainwashed idiot. Any other country's coverage of another country, I'm not saying all the time, but some of the time may be more accurate because they look at it from an outside view, outside looking in. It would be one thing if it was like a person from Israel talking about this. It would be another thing if a person from Gaza was talking about this. And then it's another thing entirely for some British dude who is perfectly fine with these Hamas people becoming his neighbor and doing God knows what to his children, although we fucking know what they do there. But yeah, Hasan straight up laughs at anything that winds up being like, hey, these are problems, these are issues, these are what these horrible people are doing. So I guess H is for haha, Hasan. Anywho, I got 2 more points left. This one's kind of repeating what I was saying earlier, but you know, just instead of it being like his media, how he, like what he takes in, I'm showing how he reacts to outside media, and I chose specifically the clip of him laughing at baby corpses that were, again, had their skulls bashed in post-mortem But, you know, that's Hasan.
We all know where this is going. Okay. I like how we're giving audience input. They're like, fuck what you guys said.
Yep, I'm talking about it on I. Now then, it would have been more fitting to put it at J, but I want to put my nail biter cliff ending end of story thing there. But I thought I should just throw in the Arab to Jew tier list that he was a part of, where he, with a bunch of people, basically, like, every single Jew they wound up putting at the bottom, and then every single Arab they wound up putting up top, and, like, it was towards fucking hummus. Which, by the way, that hummus that they were specifically talking about was some pretty cheap shit. Like, honestly, not the best. I could make better hummus, like, but, yeah. The guy straight up just hates the Jews, and he does want for the erasure of Israel, and that is, like, something that he has shown multiple times. And while this is more just a casual, like, type thing, these are his fucking ideals. I've showed already what he fucking is for, what he cares about, what his thoughts are towards the Jewish people and what they deserve, which in his opinion is terrorism. It is violence. It is death. It is for their women to be raped and murdered. And yeah, although this is a lighter form of his anti-Semitism, it is intrinsic towards his pro-terrorist agenda. And finally, Exhibit J.
Made. Okay. Yeah. Go ahead. You said, I'll quote, he worked with the ADL to make Zionist a protected class on Twitch. Now that is an outright lie.
I don't think it's an outright lie.
I worked with the ADL.
Over it,
sorry. I worked with the ADL. What does that mean?
Yeah, as in like worked alongside. I don't think you're in the...
And here is my final point as to why I think that he's a piece of shit terrorist supporter. If you say anything that's against him, he will do everything he can to slander and go against you. He will go after your family. He will send his rabid fan base after you if you do not fall in line with his terrorist supporting ideals. He will call you a Zionist. He will make stuff up about you and send his rabid fans after you. He did that to Ethan Klein because the guy just had opposing political views towards him and also happened to be Jewish. Like, seriously, you can't even hide this shit. All you have to be is either somebody that disagrees with him or a Jew, and you are his fucking enemy. Like, I could talk to people who have different politics than me, alright? I have not once in this video mentioned a single political thing that I idolize. I've mentioned things that he has said and done. I've not mentioned any, like, of my political leanings, but I can talk to somebody that's against me without making up shit about the opposition. I could do that all day. You want to talk to me about, like, Trump, or you want to talk to me about Kamala, and, like, your thoughts on, like, the election, who should have won, like, why you think that one person won, who, like, was in the right, who was in the wrong, like, we can talk about that all day. That is not what this guy does. If you disagree with any of his bullshit, any of his terrorist propagandizing bullshit, he will make shit up about you in front of his audience of people whose brains aren't fully developed and just basically smear your name through the fucking mud. Like, all it takes is that you just think that the state of Israel should exist. He will label you a Zionist. He will label you like this, that, and the third. He will say that you are against peace when he propagates the side that goes towards war. He says that you want to cause genocide as he goes to rallies and dresses up the part and screams from the river to the sea. This guy is scum incarnate. Now then, this is part 1, and all I'm talking about is like him being a terrorist supporter. Next time I'm going to talk about him going to Diddy parties, him breaking up with a girlfriend because she wanted to go to a Diddy party because apparently he frequented them, and she particularly was just like, hey, I want to see what they're like. It's like, okay then, you want to see what they're like? We're done. Just like that. I'm going to bring up the brothel in Germany he went to. I'm going to bring up how he is a rape denier. Even more than I did here. Heck, I'm going to go in depth. I'm going to, although I did say I do see it as exploitative, I think showing the way that he selectively like goes around this and like the types of people that are within his friend circle and how they like miscommunicate this information and like how they all just centralize themselves around the fact that this guy is the biggest honeypot for idiots on Twitch. So, yeah, I guess this time I did put a little bit more thought into it. I broke it down a little bit more. I've showed more evidence. I've talked about it. And if at the end of this you still think that I'm uninformed or spreading misinformation, even though in the previous video I did show some of the things, this time I'm going more in depth, going each and every point until eventually, yeah, I get all my points across. Like it if you enjoyed my rants. And leave a comment. Positive, negative. Either way, it shows engagement, which will wind up creating more potential revenue for me when I do get monetized. Peace.